Hey guys, we're kind of in the middle of a really crazy and historic situation with the spread of COVID-19 around the world. And it's been affecting pretty much everything and everyone, every country, every industry. And today I kind of wanted to touch a little bit more specifically on how it's affected film and television. The virus itself has been all over the news, and I know there's a lot of information on it already out there. I'm not going to really get into that, but it has caused a major shift in my industry, so I wanted to detail out some of the specifics there. First and foremost, just as kind of a current state of things, I live in Los Angeles, California, which is under sort of a soft modification of a shelter-in-place order. And as you can imagine, that's going to have a really, really significant effect on doing things like film or television production. The biggest thing there is every single major television show and film has stopped shooting entirely. And I don't mean like, oh, almost all of them. There are a few that are still going. I mean every single one. Obviously, this is out of an abundance of caution. Nobody wants to get sick on set, and in this situation, you have to be really careful, of course. But I think a big component that nobody's really talking about that could have some longer-term effects than anybody is mentioning is production insurance. Production insurance is there to cover if anything bad happens, if an accident occurs on set and somebody is hurt, or there's inclement weather and gear gets damaged. It's those sorts of things that safety net is there for. There's really no coverage for a global pandemic, and so no one is willing to take on the liability or take the risk on the other side of things to have something happen on a set when something as crazy as this is going on. Now, just in terms of the jobs that have stopped as a result of this, not only do you have the cast members that are the most visible, I think, of any film production since they're in front of the camera, you have directors, you have editors, you have cinematographers, you have transportation people, you have medical professionals that are on set to make sure nothing goes wrong, you have animal trainers, you have just any number of these personnel that make movies and make television happen. All of a sudden, the work has stopped for all of them. The ripple effect of that is, of course, if a production stops, eventually the post-production crew that's supposed to inherit all of that information and do any kind of editorial work on it, sound effects work on it, or mixing work on it, can't happen. So looking at the big picture here, a production shuts down, their post-production doesn't have anything to work on, the product doesn't come out on time, and pretty soon you don't have any new television shows being generated. You don't have any new feature films being shot. It puts the industry in a really interesting situation unless it can adapt to what's going on. We've already seen the new James Bond film stop shooting, and as a result, that entire process is going to be delayed. A whole bunch of films that were actually slated to be released within the coming, couple of months have pushed their release dates back until next year even, because they're really unsure of how this is all going to play out. On top of all that, in the television world, this is pilot season. If you're not already familiar with the term, it's when creators are pitching networks, studios, financiers saying, hey, I've got a really great idea for a show. Let me crew up and get all the cast together, and we're going to shoot an episode of it as sort of a demo of what it's going to be like, and then you can pick it up for the next 100 episodes if you want, 200 episodes if you want. None of that is happening because, again, everything is shut down. There are also a lot of television shows right now that need to do pickup shots to finish off their seasons. Those aren't being shot. Same thing with features. There are a bunch of feature films right now that are currently in production. They've got most of the content that they need, and they can't finish their films because they can't go out and do pickups as a result of this. So the whole process is getting delayed. It's really crazy and kind of unprecedented to see something like this happen. And even for the films that are complete and they do have a final version that's ready for viewing by audiences, all the theaters, at least here in Los Angeles, are also shut down, so it's not like people are able to gather and see these things in the standard viewing of cinema. Fortunately, we have things like Netflix, we have things like Amazon Prime. There are all of these online distribution options that didn't exist even, 10 years ago in the ways that they do now, at least. So a lot of studios are now turning to either those sorts of outlets or their own to release these films both in theaters and online at the same time, which I know Netflix has kind of made it seem like that's not really that big of a deal, but in the major studio world, it really is. That's unprecedented again. That's never happened before. Now, that's obviously causing a huge upheaval to how entertainment business usually runs, so I'm going to be really interested to see how it all kind of shifts and adapts to this new paradigm, at least for the next month or two. Hopefully it's not longer. But it's not just in the major leagues that this is happening. The independent world is also being affected because, again, nobody's really able to go out and shoot safely in these conditions, at least here in Los Angeles, unless you violate the shelter-in-place orders. But also, film festivals all over the country here are shutting down. They're being postponed because you can't gather that many people in these places. So the primary way for independent creators to screen their short films, feature films, etc., has kind of gone away for the time being. But I'm really curious how this has specifically affected you guys, whether you're working at the top levels of entertainment or you're an aspiring filmmaker trying to break in, you're anywhere in between that, you're a YouTuber, whatever you might be, how this has changed the way you're creating and distributing your content. I know that a lot of my peers have had their work kind of evaporate overnight. Some of them have had shows or films that they're working on, they're going to keep working on until they're done, but nobody really knows what's going to happen after that. Some of them are working on content that kind of lends itself to a situation like this anyway, so they're not seeing much change. There's a whole variety of different sort of effects this is having and not having. Suffice to say, I think this is a really complicated and quickly moving situation that everybody's still trying to get their bearings on. I'm really specifically curious about how it's affecting you guys as creators. So tell me in the comments what you've been working on, how this has changed the things that you're doing, and how you've had to adapt to the situation. I won't spend too much more time on this particular subject. I know there's already a lot of news and information out there, but if more becomes available on specifically film and you guys are interested, I can post another update at some point soon. In the meantime, I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. Keep creating through all of this, and as always, thanks for watching.